I call to order this regular meeting of the Page County School Board. Mr. Goodwin.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter. Yes. Mrs. Sullivan.
Yes.
Ms. Ward. Yes. Please pause for a moment of silence as we prepare for the meeting tonight. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Fox, do you have any agenda changes or additions?
I do not.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mr. Painter to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Goodwin.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan.
Yes.
Ms. Ward.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept certification on personnel matters discussed in closed session meeting tonight, section 2.2-3711A1.
Second.
The motion by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Dr. Painter to certify personnel matters discussed in closed session.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Goodwin.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
Ms. Ward.
Yes. We have no citizen comment. And the minutes for May are posted for review. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda for personnel action?
I make a motion that we approve the personnel action from the consent agenda.
A second?
A motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to approve the personnel action on consent agenda.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Goodwin.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
No.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
Ms. Ward.
Yes. Ms. Sechrist, monthly financial reports.
Yes, good evening, board members. You all have been provided with the monthly financial report for May, where expenditures and revenue were $3,896,893.50, along with the local match calculation that we did balance with the treasurer. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
I make a motion that we,
Their information.
oh, that's, sorry.
Does anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hopkins, Title I consolidated application.
Good evening. You should have a page or one-page handout on applications for fiscal year 23. The first part of the slide, as you can see, is Title I Part A, which we participate in 4 federal programs: Title I Part A, Title II Part A, Title III Part A, and Title IV Part A. 93% of Title I goes to salaries and benefits, which 93%. So that leaves us 7%, which we in turn use for materials and supplies, such things as our literacy consumables, books, materials for students, those type of things. Additionally, we also are required to have parent-family engagement events. Of course, with COVID, that's been very difficult. But we've managed to get by with some very outside-the-box thinking. But we're going to move back to some more traditional things, such as our plays, which we were able to do in the spring of this year. That play involved a dinner, those type of things. We've also are going to look at purchasing materials and resources for parents to allow them to check out and share and use with their students at home, making a recommendation from a teacher. We'll have our Title I specialist be involved with that, and they can share those kind of things. The allocation that we're building the grant year for fiscal 23 is last year's. That's what we were asked to do. There is the projected allocation, there is an increase. So we'll see if that actually comes through in the end of this, I guess, August, September, we should provide. Title II Part A, I'm sorry, before I go on, any questions about Title? Yes, ma'am.
How many private schools want to participate in Title I?
Yes, ma'am. There are 3 in our area, and none of them want to participate in Title I.
So
I
why are you,
yeah, I saw that. So I built this before I talked to the final one, which actually got with me yesterday.
okay.
So I was leaving that wiggle room for her. All of them have decided to go with Title IV Part A. Other questions? All right, Title II Part A is used for a multitude of things. Mostly what we use it for, as you can see, 96% goes to salary and benefits. Of that, we use it to hire and retain qualified teachers to reduce class size, as well as we use it for salary differentials for those very difficult, specifically math in our case, teachers to retain. The additional private school, again, I was leaving the wiggle room just in case this last person wanted to use it. She has decided not to. She wants to just go with Title IV. Yes.
Are all of our, I'm assuming the reducing class sizes for elementary,
Yes.
so all of our elementary teachers were considered properly licensed and endorsed? Because we have to have all of them to use it for that.
It's a great question. I'm not 100% on that, but I just off the top of my head would say no. So I need to check into that.
So what if it is a no?
They can use it on other stuff.
Just reallocate it
I have
within the
to
grant.
Other questions about Title II? All right, move on to Title III. Title III is a very small grant for us. It's a $3,800 grant, which we use primarily for materials and supplies. Historically, things such as translators, consumables for our English learners, that's the type of thing that that's used for. We also use it for, you can see their salary and benefits. We do some summer work with our EL teacher that helps support some of that transition for our new teachers as they come in, just give them that little piece of education. Questions about Title III?
So when you talk about instruction, you look at suspension rates amongst students.
Would you be more specific? I'm not.
Yeah, like any student that falls in that category. You look at suspension rates or anything like that to see if you're reaching
Yeah, so
those groups.
the instruction I'm referring to is teacher instruction.
Okay.
So I'm using our EL teacher to provide instruction to our incoming new teachers. So no, right now that's what that's targeted at. As far as teasing out those students that fall into that category, no, that's not part of this.
Are you asking about the EL part or whatever, the Title III?
Yeah.
Well, they tie it towards proficiency of those students academically.
Yeah, but part of our discipline, looking at our data, we break them out by the different subgroups. So we look at race, we look at ethnicity, we look at special ed, we can look at disadvantage, all of those
So
categories.
that's the first sign that you're not reaching that student.
Other questions? Finally, Title IV Part A. And this is going to change for us this grant year, hopefully, with the help of Ms. Sechrist. Historically, we've used Title IV Part A to transfer into Title I to help cover salary and benefits. I think through Ms. Sechrist and I's working together, we've been able to make sure that Title I is going to cover our salary and benefits as well as materials and supplies. So my hope is to build out Title IV for what it's truly originally was given to us for, and that's as you can see there, well-rounded education, safe and healthy students, and technology. We do use it currently and have been for a while to send folks, like Mr. Samples, to a technology conference. But I would like to build that out a little bit with some more, if you would, speakers, presentations, focusing on our initiative of kindness, as well as, I thought about partnering with PACA and bringing in some speakers. I know I've talked to Ms. Gordon about that historically, and maybe would like to pick that back up. So that would sort of fall into the health and safety piece of that. As far as the well-rounded piece, I'd like to look at some more STEM things for our students and expand our STEM usage as far as different things that I really don't know a whole lot about. Mr. Samples does.
STEM is not, I mean, STEM is not something that we do a lot within the school system, right? We don't have a STEM class that every elementary student goes to.
No, but they're getting elements of it through their other on-core rotations, through the computer science standards and things like that, enrichment activities.
Gifted.
Correct, yes. Our GT program offers a lot of things with the STEM and those type of things, so there's an experience there. And also elementary librarians have some materials that they've historically.
And middle school as well, right? Middle school has something.
They have,
Right,
seen it.
CCLC program. It's pretty good.
correct, CCLC, yes. Yeah, and I believe, you're right, Ms. Brainerd, you're right. Middle school has been historically provided with some of those materials.
It's a great way to learn.
Absolutely. Any questions about Title IV Part A?
Your private school percent will go way down because they're not going to get that big of a chunk compared to y'all.
Correct, yes, ma'am, yes. Even though the three of them want it, their percentage will be much,
Yeah.
won't be as great.
My only question is like, what kind of feedback did you get from people before creating your applications?
So I talked to, of course, we got feedback from parents, and most of our parents, about 85%, were satisfied with what they were getting. There was some disgruntledness about the fact that we had not had as many events, and of course, we're going to change that. I've already talked with Dr. Fox, and we've had those conversations about trying to increase some of those things and just outside the box ideas. Whether we still, people are not comfortable coming in, maybe we use a digital platform and do some educational pieces with math and literacy in those regards. Teachers provided feedback, and we've had change or turnover of a couple of our Title I teachers. A couple of folks have retired. So we have some new folks coming in, and they've given me some wants and desires and things they want to look at.
I guess maybe I should have asked differently. How did you conduct a needs assessment for what to put in there? Especially like saying that, well, we're not going to transfer Title IV into Title I anymore, but we're going to tease it out. Like, what did you find from a needs assessment to say that you needed to do it different?
So I had the opportunity to do the needs assessment with the administrative teams of each of the elementary schools, and they're the ones that have directed and asked for these things. As far, specifically the kindness and the presenters and bringing people in to speak to that. They really enjoyed the BMX bike show that we did early fall at both the events that we did.
So that's when they
those
pull
kind of-
in your discipline stuff when they do. Yes.
So that's the, yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. So those are the kind of things. I did have those opportunities. Yes. Other questions? I will bring this back one more time, I believe, with Dr. Fox's permission, and just y'all got to give me the green light, and then we'll submit it to the state.
Thank
I
you.
think y'all sign it.
Yeah, we'll approve it next time, and then we'll sign it, and we submit it by the end of the month.
Thank you so much.
Summer programs update, Dr. Fox?
Yeah, so I have a little bit of information for you, just as an update from last time, knowing, please, that this is still a work in progress, but we just wanted to provide you with an update this evening. So with our elementary summer learning programs, they, again, are focused on English language art, or ELA, and math. Most of the sessions are running Monday through Thursday from 9 to 1 for 2 weeks at a time, and they might be repeated for multiple times. They do get breakfast, students do get breakfast and lunch in those, and transportation is provided. At Stanley Elementary, right now, their first session is running from June 20th to the 30th. And right now, 27 of the 40 students that were invited have accepted and will be attending. At Shenandoah, their first session is the 11th through the 21st of July. Right now, 16 of 97 invited have responded, but they're still in the process of reaching out to all of those parents. So at this point in time, they have a list of 97, 16 have accepted. I would anticipate that number to easily double by the time we meet next time. Luray and Springfield are both sort of in the same place. They're realigning what they want to do, and so they're still in progress with planning, but we'll have a similar format to what you're seeing for Stanley and Shenandoah. Right now, Luray has 43 identified students that they're reaching out to, and Springfield has 20. In addition to those, we are looking at the potential, because there's a couple of variables. We are impacted by staffing. Even though we've increased the pay, it is a little bit harder to find staff. We may end up consolidating some of the schools together, because then we can consolidate the staff for that. It makes sense to do that. So we're looking at that as a potential for some of the programs to continue them through July. Parent contact is coming directly from school administrators, and in some cases, the teachers or the counselors, they're calling those parents directly to have conversations with them and really encouraging them and enticing them to say, this is, we're recommending this for your child. Let them participate in the programs. And then they're also reaching out to their staff to secure additional staffing as we move through. We did talk briefly about the stipend concept that I think Dr. Painter, you mentioned. Is that you?
Yep.
That mentioned that. We're talking briefly about that to see if that might help with some of the staffing, but we wanted administrators to go through the first couple rounds first before we move in that direction. In terms of the data sources that we're using for how students are being selected or we're deciding that they need some summer remediation. For language arts, we're using things like PALS, Dyslexia level reading assessments, the Fontes and Pinnell, the reading inventory, and then some of the SOL assessments for your older students in K 4 and 5. For mathematics, we're using the kindergarten readiness and the iReady leveling system for math. Our CIP, which is that regional program where we buy into some of the benchmarking assessments there. And then SOL assessments as well for some of the older students. So what principals did was took that information and looked at it for their school and figured out what was best, where did they need to draw the lines for certain things, and then they moved those kids over into, these are ones that we're going to recommend to move into a summer learning program. Questions about elementary before we move into secondary?
No change with the SOL. Or a test was taken, assessment was taken. There's improvement, they're fine.
In terms of like that growth piece that we talked about. So that's considered in there. There might be a child that maybe made growth, but their Lexia score might be low, so they may have recommended them even though they made growth. We will have to bring that policy back to you all. That's not something we've had a chance to revise yet, but we will bring that because it does also, our policy still does reference that we will allow students to have exam exemptions if they pass an SOL, and that's been gone for a couple of years. You can't do that anymore. So we'll bring that whole policy back to you probably in July to revisit. Good. Any other questions? With regard to our secondary programs at the middle school right now, that program is running at Page Middle School for both LMS and PCMS students. Right now, we're serving about 17 students. They're working on math or English. And they are primarily using Apex because what they've done is the teachers have said this is the content area that they need to go back and have some specialization in. Apex gives pre and post tests so we can see if they've mastered that content before they move to the next one. The teachers are providing individual instruction and using breakout groups. So it's not completely on Apex, but Apex is where the curriculum is being pulled because they each have different needs, and that's a good way to meet those needs for them. So again, pre and post tests are being done there. Also, just want to note that both the middle schools, as the year went on this year, they did a lot of intensive after-school tutoring programs for the kids, working with them. LMS had the top program that they coordinated with JMU, where folks from JMU came in and worked with students. PCMS has a CCLC program where they work with kids after school. And each of the middle schools also had that RTI block where they provided 40 minutes of intensive remediation. So that is playing into some of this because some of those needs were met for some of these kids during the school year. They're also going back and taking another look at their data sources, which we'll show you in a minute. And if we need to pull additional kids in, they'll do that as well. But this is where they are as of right now. At the high schools, we're looking at about 75 students being served from both the schools. And there's sort of a couple of different programs that you're looking at there. Some are SOL remediation and retesting. So for instance, you heard us talk last time about a biology need at Page High School. So they're looking at bringing those kids in. You give them really specific intensive biology remediation. They're then eligible for a retake on the biology SOL. So our hope is to get those kids that verified credit before the start of the school year. So they then don't have to do that during the school year when they're doing their other academic learning.
That's good.
And then credit recovery. So say a student, they've met their seat hours for a class, but they may not have passed the class, but they were very close to earning, say, a credit in English 9. Credit recovery, you come in, you provide some additional remediation and some time with the content, you get them to pass certain pieces. They can then earn that credit for English 9 and advance because that's important for them to keep moving through. So sort of two different lenses there at the high school. You're working on some verified credit, some standard credit so that you can move kids towards graduation. Focus at both schools is on your current 11th graders so that we can try to knock out as many of those verified credits, as many of those credits, normal standard credits, so it's not impeding their graduation. So we're looking at writing as well for some of them, or the reading for those English 11 students. We'll do something similar to the biology for those kids that need the reading, try to get them through now. We may do another, typically you do a fall remediation early, right at the beginning of the school year, and then test then to try and get those kids through, especially, again, those English 11 seniors. So they're doing 3 different sessions, again, 2 weeks at a time from about 9 to 1. So same sort of schedule, breakfast, lunch, transportation is provided. Any questions there before we look? So secondary data source is a little bit different than your elementary, but obviously your final course grades, SOL assessments, teacher, counselor, parent, administrator recommendations. And they're using that to, again, identify those specific needs for credit recovery or for SOL remediation that we might need so that we can retest, because in order to retest, you have to do some level of remediation. So that's where we are with those are the academic pieces of summer learning. Questions?
Comment. Thank you for giving the attention to this that it needed.
Sure, and we're not done. We've got there's more legwork we need to do, but this is where we are as of right now, so we'll come back to you with some additional.
Are you gonna be able to get out to the schools along with the directors?
Yeah, I hope so. One of the things I'm going to show you is an invite they sent us. I know Mr. Hopkins and Miss Owens and Mr. Runyon went out this week to the first camp. I'm going to try to hit it on Monday or Tuesday morning. And then they have invited all of us, and I sent this to you guys. They're giving a little musical next Thursday. So our hope is that some of us can join them for that. But you good? Can I move on to this quick update? So summer camps, the arts and culture one is running this week through next week. There are about 88 students participating. We have a culinary element, so students are learning some different things about kitchen equipment, food safety, sanitation, meal prepping. And each day they're doing a prep of a different menu item. And then the arts and culture students are preparing to present a musical where they'll be acting, singing, and then the art students are creating the stage props and the backgrounds for the musical. So that's called the Granny Awards, and that'll be next Thursday at 12:15. So if you guys would like to join us, we'd love to have you there for that. The next one, which will run starting the 20th, I believe, is the sports and rec. So we'll provide you an update on the number of students and things like that. Parents are receiving emails, transportation's being worked out, and then again, breakfast and lunch for those students.
Remind me who's eating it's the pizza. Ice cream. Who's doing that?
That's the culinary with Ms. Comer and some of the other staff. So, and they've got it split up by different grade levels and things like that. So it is you have kids from, across grade levels are participating in these camps together. So a lot of kudos to the teachers and the staff. They put a lot of work into making this. And they're doing some of the math elements with your measurements and things with the arts and culture, the drafting and things like that. And they're doing some writing with journaling and things like that in these programs. So that's the update for that. And we'll give you some more information when we meet on the 23rd. Any questions?
Will the paper cover the camp?
You know what we can send something to them. I'll reach out to Miss Runyon. I think we notified them, but let me confirm that. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. They're creating a little, keeping some pictures for us in a gallery on Google, so we'll be able to share some of those out as we move through. Okay. Any questions?
Well, the data that you're going to be collecting and seeing the passing where they're at, is that going to be shared with us, or is
Sure,
that
we
something
can
you
take
just
a look
want-
at. No, we can share that. I think it'll come later in the summer, but we can certainly share that with you all and take a look at what we've seen in some of the students. Because our goal is, hopefully, we say to you, 95% of the kids that did the biology passed the biology SOL once they had the remediation. So sure, we can share that with you. Thank you. You're welcome.
Employee health insurance update, Dr. Johnson?
Good evening, members of the school board. I know that you have been following the health insurance piece from a budget point of view, as that's a fairly significant number in our 22-23 budget planning. But I wanted to take a moment tonight and just give you a little bit of an update of the nuts and bolts within the health insurance proposal for next year. We were informed recently of very good news that in spite of a trend nationally and in the state for increased rates, our employee rates are going to remain like where they're at. no increase at all. So when you couple that with the proposed 7% pay raise, it's very good news for our folks. But I just want to take you through a couple of things, and I'll give it the 30,000-foot summary against the documentation I provided for you. But the rates are going to be stable. The package options that employees had this year for 21-22 are going to be exactly the same. So employee only, employee spouse, family plans, all the plans that we currently had in place this year, we were able to hang on to. So we were pleased about that. You can see in the opening little paragraph there's some mention about standalone dental and standalone vision. There are slight increases in those, 1.49%, but those are very small numbers of employees. Those are the employees that don't take the general health plan, but want to get a standalone dental or that kind of thing. And there was a slight increase in that from our benefits consultants, but very minimal. The trends over the last 2 years, you can see the annual trend was 6.5% increase last year, and yet Page County Public Schools employees enjoyed a 4% decrease last year. This year, again, it's trending upwards 5% or more, but we've been able to hold firm. The reasoning behind that is our employee behaviors and the treatment of our insurance. And what I mean by that is our employees use the benefits really well. They don't just run, for the most part, to the emergency room, for instance. That's very expensive. That hits our plan. Down the road, then, when they're looking at how much we spent, that affects rates for the next year. We see a lot of folks using the telemed, that kind of thing. We see folks working to keep the costs down by not just acting, irrationally, but kind of going to the doctor when they need to go to the doctor. We want our folks to use the health insurance, but we try to educate on the ramifications if you don't use it wisely. It ends up costing you more. So that shows in our trend history the last couple of years that our people are doing a really nice job with that. So we're pleased about that. If you look on the second page there, you can see the services. They give a nice little bulleted list of other things that our employees are able to access, things like life insurance, whole life insurance, critical illness, things of that nature. And then finally, just a little bit of a what's next for you all. Obviously, tonight, we wanted to give you an update. We will seek your approval on June the 23rd for this. You've already approved the fiscal part because that's in the budget that you approved, but we still want to get your approval on this piece. And then on the 24th, we would submit our renewal to Pierce Benefits Group. The other thing that's going to be going on that I'm pleased about, the Pierce Group is going to provide us with a couple of ways to access counselors. So if you're thinking about switching your insurance or you have questions about your insurance, first of all, they're going to release a video very soon, and we'll be able to make that available to employees, which will just give an overview of the benefits, the plan types, the nuances of our health insurance. And then we'll be advertising, there'll be opportunities to sign up for both a virtual counseling appointment or a physical, if you want. They're going to be on site for several days, and our people will be able to meet face to face. Or if you're comfortable with the virtual, you can sign up for appointments that way as well. So we feel really good that by August, our employees will have a good opportunity to see their options, ask the right questions, understand their options, and then in a timely manner. We have to go through open enrollment. By law, that's required between August 1st and 15th. So we will take care of that. Really starting the week of new teacher orientation, 7th, 8th week, we'll get that taken care of, and they'll be in Page County available for our people. So we're full speed ahead with health insurance, but we feel good about it.
Yeah, going back to that HSA part of it. So we contribute 1,200, and then an individual was at 3,600, and the family 7,200.
Yeah, so let me explain that to you.
Okay.
That's a great question. So we can, if somebody has the HSA, the health savings account, that is the That is the most inexpensive package you can get for health insurance. And what happens with that, you're literally paying as you go. If you have a doctor's appointment, you pay the whole amount. If you have an emergency room visit, you pay the whole amount. And it gets to a threshold where then maximum out of pocket occurs and you're finished. The counselors would tell you that the two benefits of that, if you're an individual that hardly ever goes to the doctor, you're young, you're healthy, you don't need much medical service, that's a really good way to go. Because instead of giving the insurance company your finances in the way of monthly premiums in the higher plans, you're saving it and spending it as you need to. We do give $100 a month out of the payroll process toward the HSA. The other numbers that you saw there, the 3,650 and the 7,300, that's the federal limit. So if I get $100 a month in an HSA account from Page County Schools, that goes into basically a savings account that I can draw from to spend anytime I want on medical bills, dental, vision, health. But if I want to add to that, I can't. But those are the caps. If I'm an individual, the federal law is that you cannot build your HSA over $3,650 a year. And if you're a family, if you're on a family plan, you cannot build it over $7,300 a year. So that's what those numbers are.
I would assume with that contribution that almost everybody has an HSA.
You would be surprised.
Really?
I agree with your mindset. It's a wonderful thing. I've seen people really take advantage of it, but you would be surprised at how few people do it. Yeah. There's nervousness. The thought of paying out of pocket as you go makes many people nervous.
It's a great contribution.
Thank you.
That's it.
I think you're up again for the panel of
Yes, ma'am.
physicians for 2023.
So just a meeting or two ago, we asked you to add the Concentra Telemed Virginia to the current panel of physicians for 21-22, and you might recall that that's because now the company nurse program, when somebody gets injured on the job, the process is they call the tele-nurse, company nurse line, and we learned that those folks were now steering our people to a first call of Concentra Telemed Virginia. And so you all approved that a few weeks ago. So this is the exact list that's in place right now for 21-22. And this is workers' comp. When somebody gets injured on the job, they are, unless it's an emergency in which they need to go to the emergency room, they are required to choose off of this list in order to be eligible for workers' comp coverage if it applies. And so we give this to all of our employees at the beginning of the year. We make sure everybody knows it's posted in many, many places to make sure folks know this. But each year we ask you to approve this, and that way we can post it as needed. And so it's informational tonight, but we would bring it back to you in 2 weeks and ask you to approve it.
Dr. Fox, superintendent's update.
Yes, thank you. I just have a short update for you tonight. First, I just wanted to begin by congratulating, we had some winners at the state track meet last weekend at JMU, and we'll get those names and publicly congratulate them, but some students from Luray High School and Page both won at events there, so congratulations to them. And we want to wish good luck tomorrow to the Page High softball team. They're playing at 1 o'clock in Salem, and our Luray High School soccer team is playing at 3 o'clock in Salem at the state semifinals. State finals, weather holding, will be on Saturday. If for some reason that doesn't work out, they'll play on Sunday. But the state jubilee is this weekend, so we wish them good luck with that. In terms of our budget, we just wanted to share this information with the public that the General Assembly has passed the budget and sent it on to the governor, so it's awaiting the approval of the governor. So we're optimistic that that will happen pretty soon. And the next steps are, once we get that final signed budget, we'll know what our exact state allocations are, and we'll update the school board and the board of supervisors with those final numbers, and then we'll have to do an amendment to our FY23 budget that we adopted on May 17th. So we'll be coming back to you at some point in the next couple weeks to amend and then adopt our final budget, knowing that July 1st is just around the corner for all of that. Wanted to make sure, because I think we've talked about this in some comments or questions, but I wanted to officially push this out there to you all and to the public, as the number of conversations we had this year about our grading practices with respect to assigning no grade lower than a 50%. So both the elementary and the secondary grading committees met this spring, and both of them have made the recommendation that we rescind that practice of mandating a 50% or no grade lower than a 50%. So that will begin with the 22-23 school year. Those committees are going to continue to meet throughout the school year because there are other things related to grading practices that we want to discuss. Some of those came up through the surveys that we've had, some of them through conversations with our teacher advisory council. So we're going to continue to look at our grading practices, and we'll bring information back to you with an update. But we just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that that decision has been made, and we'll move forward with that starting next school year. And then wanted to talk with you about an adjustment to your school board meeting. Right now, we meet 2 times a month with formal meetings both times. So the second Thursday and the fourth Thursday of the month, and those are formal meetings. What we're recommending is that we move to 1 formal meeting a month and 1 work session a month. And what that does for us is the work sessions just allow us to have more robust conversations about things. There's still an agenda, it's still a formal process, but it allows us to have deeper conversations. So if we want to talk about instructional data, we can present it to you and then have more conversations about that data. So we are proposing that we change our structure from 1 work session a month and 1 formal meeting a month, staying on the same second and fourth. The first one would be the work session, and then the second would be the formal meeting. So in those work sessions, we still have to have a quorum. We will have a roll call. There is an agenda. They are open to the public, but there is no public comment at a work session. You can vote as board members. You can vote on things in a work session, but really the reality is you don't want to do that too often because then you're defeating the purpose of what it's intended to be. So if we find that we're having to bring a lot of things to vote at those meetings, we would need to move back and revert back to a more formal meeting structure. We can stream those meetings. It isn't required that we stream them. It isn't required that we stream this meeting, but we've been doing that since COVID. So my recommendation to you would be that we continue to stream those meetings in the effort to be transparent with our public, but know that you aren't required to stream those. In terms of impacts, we discussed our monthly financials and our personnel approvals are sometimes reliant on us having 2 meetings a month, but right now we can manage those by only having the 1 formal meeting. And again, should we have the need, you do have the ability to vote in a work session if we needed to. So next steps for you all would be decide that you want to move in this. You don't need to vote on it. But what we would need to do is if you want to change the structure, we would redo our meeting schedule to show that those are now work sessions, same dates. You can change the time if you want of a work session. Right now, if we do for example, if we do a budget work session, we start those at 5 o'clock. You could decide that you want to do your meet work sessions at a different time or leave it at 6:30. And then we would revise that calendar and bring it back to you to a vote on it, the changes, and approve it at our next meeting. The other thing you need to decide on is when you would want this to begin. Do you want to start in July? Do you want to start in August? Do you want to wait till September? You can decide those kinds of things. So with regard to an update, I do just need those things from you all so we can either discuss it tonight or you can talk about it and let me know and we can bring back more information on the 23rd. Or if you have other questions about the work session structure, I can get those answered and bring that back to you on the 23rd.
I have one question. Let's say we would start it in July, but the business session would be the second meeting. Does that interfere with hiring? If you had some hires that you wanted to get in earlier, would we have to wait till the second meeting?
No, I think that would be a time when I would ask you to potentially vote in a work session would be on your personnel. You could put it as a consent item and we could still approve it as needed.
I just didn't want to slow the process down because I realized when school started in August, you need to have as much in place. So.
I would say for July and August, that would be the one anomaly to the work session, but things should theoretically slow down once you get into the fall because hopefully we'll have all of those positions filled and won't have to do many personnel packets.
And then, Linda, correct me if I'm wrong, in July, typically, we only had one meeting.
There's two on the
Two
thing.
scheduled.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And it makes no difference, I just,
Yeah, right now you have two.
okay,
And I think part of that was last year you were on the 1st and that fell on the 4th of
Right,
July.
right.
We're now 2nd and 4th, so it's a little
Okay.
different.
So it's the first one that's the work session.
Yes.
Do we have closed session before that one?
You can if you have to, like if we had
We have
personnel that we needed to discuss, but if we didn't have that and the agenda was, say, just instructional data, you wouldn't need to have a closed session unless you particularly wanted one or needed to discuss something. And we would still have an agenda for it, a little bit different flavor than what you see now, but it's still a formal agenda with items on it, so you know ahead of time what we're going to discuss.
Okay, so here's my thought. Y'all tell me. At first I thought, yeah, it might be nice to start in August, no way July. But then I thought, August, being a former principal and things of how much work you're trying to focus on getting your school started, that, you know, let them have that time to focus on it instead of making us a bunch of presentations to present us. And then maybe September 8th, school just started, they could give us what data they're starting with to base theirs. Maybe if they knew what their school goals are by then.
So who do we
Mr.
envision?
Hopkins to have his Title I plans approved, we'll know what their objectives and things are in it. I don't know. And then we don't have to worry about messing up Dr. Johnson's hiring season all he's gonna want in August, because that's hammer time right there, August 11th, yeah.
Who would be presenting? I think it would just depend on, instructional data would likely be myself, Ms. Ryman, your directors. There's sometimes you might have a principal come in. I think it would just depend if we wanted to highlight or showcase something that they're doing at their school or a data point we could bring them in to do that. But I think in most likely it would be the staff up
I
here.
was just thinking like, Miss Ryman's gonna be trying to learn her schools and things and try to find us a direction. But I don't want to take her focus from that and trying to do a song and dance for us. I don't know, that's just my thought.
Well, hoping not more than a song and dance.
You know what I mean, not just focus on making something look good for us and that she's putting her energy into the schools. And then come September, everything's kind of settled for her. She's comfortable.
Well, let me throw the next slide out and then let's come back, because the next slide is about your board retreat. So I think maybe some of the pause is, you may want to know some of that instructional data, discipline data this summer. So we've proposed a board retreat for you. Some of those conversations could happen at this board retreat. So that might be the gateway between waiting till September to move to the work session structure. So right now we're looking at Tuesday, the 26th. Don't have a location yet. We're sorting that out, but we'll get that information to you. But this would be a time when we could also have some presentations and some robust discussion about things like instructional data, student discipline. We would want to present to you our new code of conduct and handbook and things like that. So I don't know if that helps with where you are with thinking about your work sessions, but just putting that out there publicly to announcing that there will be a school board retreat. That again is open to the public. We'll post the agenda for that. And we'll give you all the details of that. We do anticipate that we'll have central office staff presenting. We'll have our principals and assistant principals join us for that. We're working on the agenda, and we'll get a draft agenda to you all in the next couple of weeks.
I think I'm okay with September. I think it makes sense, especially if we're going to do this at the end of July. Is that okay with you? What do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. We can move to that. We'll follow the same. In some ways, some of what you already are doing is a work session, because we're presenting you stuff in an informational format, and then the next meeting you vote on it. It would just mean would be a little bit more robust conversation about some of the things, because the agenda wouldn't have maybe as many items as you normally would have in a regular board meeting. So say we were presenting SOL data to you, that might be the only thing on that work session agenda, other than maybe a quick policy thing that we know we need to vote on the next time.
I just think with it being something new, you don't want to throw something that's unknown to people on top of planning for a new school.
No, and I appreciate that. I mean, it does give us a little bit more time to get ourselves reacclimated to the idea of a work session, so.
Because would you put things like your superintendent's update as part of that then, maybe instead of,
Sure, and my updates might start to change a little bit more, and it might just be some comments and things for you, or if I need, because to me, if we're presenting to you about, like sometimes I've given you an update on attendance, that would be a work session item. Because there's nothing on attendance we need to vote on, we just need to talk about it, we need to share information with you. So that would then remove that from your meeting agenda at your second meeting. It wouldn't be there because I wouldn't need to update you on it.
hey, I'm here for the party, so whatever you guys want.
Mr. Gubler, are you okay with
Fine.
September?
Yeah.
Mr. Payne?
Okay. So what we'll do then is we'll update the calendar for you. We'll bring that back to you at the next meeting. You'll approve that, and then knowing in September, we'll start the work sessions.
Who's going to lead that retreat?
I will,
You will?
with staff. I mean, it'll be a team. It's not just going to be me. I really want some of our other staff in front of you presenting and sharing some of the things. We'll do some of the highlights. We'll do some of the areas where we need to grow, but I think it's going to be important that you see other faces like Mr. Hopkins and Mr. Runyon and Ms. Baker presenting different things for you and sharing information. I don't need to do all the talking.
Did you do a good job?
Well, thanks, Dr. Peter.
All right.
Oh, we'll start time for the work sessions. Do you want to leave it at 6:30?
You want to leave it at 6:30?
I mean, why not go to 5:30 just to help everybody get on, I don't have a.
If there's no
personnel
close,
at
if
the
there's
Yeah,
no
no
closed
personnel.
session.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you could do the close, well, yeah, because you need to vote on it
Yeah.
at the meeting, so you couldn't do it after, but yes,
Yeah.
okay. And I do think that the close would be few and far between that we would need to do that.
In front of that, okay.
So what time is it going to start?
5:30.
Yeah. I
Unless
think
we
that
have a
helps everybody
closed.
get home too.
Yeah, yeah. And then we can try it, and you guys can always decide it's not working, and we go back to the 2 formal meetings a month. So you certainly have that discretion. You can give it a couple months and see if you like it, if it's working for us financially, for personnel. If it's not, then we go back.
Okay,
All right, thank you. That's all I had for the update this evening.
thank you. Thank you. Ms. Seegers, approval of claims for payment?
Yes, good evening again, Board. You all have been provided with the claim certification where the operating expenditures are $222,185.96. Food service expenditures, $9,191.66. Total expenditures, $231,377.72. Oh, I'm sorry. 62 cents. And along with that, you've been provided the list of claims as well as the check register. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the claims for payment as presented.
Second. So we have a motion by Mr. Gubler and a second by Ms. Sullivan Smith to accept the claims for payment as presented.
Mr. Payne.
Yes.
Dr. Payne.
Yes.
Mr. Dugal.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes. Ms. Jeffries, the CEP.
Good evening, members of the board. I come before you again tonight with the same information that I presented at the last meeting. Specifically, I am recommending that we apply for the community eligibility provision, CEP, at all 8 of our schools for the upcoming school year.
Make a motion that we approve the CEP application for all 8 PCPS schools as presented by Mr. Hopkins.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mr. Gubler to approve the CEP for all 8 schools.
Mr. Payne.
Yes.
Dr. Payne.
Yes.
Mr. Dugal.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes. Ms. Jeffries, adult meal pricing.
Again, similar to what I presented last meeting, I'm just hoping to get approval for my recommended meal prices for adults for next school year. These are based off of federal guidelines.
I make a motion that we approve the adult meal pricing for the 22-23 school years presented by Ms. Jeffries.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to approve the adult meal pricing as presented.
Yes. Mr. Buford?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smoot?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Johnson, VSBA policy approval?
Yes, ma'am. At the last meeting, we worked through the VSBA February updates, and tonight we bring them back to you. These are all edited, personalized to Page County Public Schools, and we would seek your approval tonight.
I make a motion that we approve the plethora of the SBA policy updates as presented by Dr. Johnson.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Painter, a second by Mr. Painter to approve the plethora of policy updates as presented by Dr.
Mr. Buford?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Dr. Painter? Yes. Ms. Sullivan Smoot?
Yes.
Yes. Dr. Fox, the easement request?
Yeah, so good evening, board. And tonight in front of you, we have the Shenandoah Valley Electric Cooperative through their agent, which is known as the Bowman Group. They are seeking two separate and distinct easements requests from the school board. One is for a parcel, both are for parcels near Springfield Elementary School. And what they want to do is be able to use that to install some communications equipment if they need to. So we have sent all of the information that we received from them with their request to Botkin Rose, our attorney. They have reviewed it. They have requested some additional information from the Bowman Group. They either need to give us a sketch of the location, and what you have in your document is a basic sketch. It just shows you sort of in the vicinity of Springfield Elementary what we're talking about. They have requested that there be more specific information provided, specific to exactly where on the property that easement line would be. And then revising the language to describe the exact location so that we either have it in picture form where exactly it's going to be or in word form. They've notified, the Bowman Group then notified the attorneys that that might take a little bit of time to do. So what they're recommending in advancement of that is that there are two resolutions that we're going to read to you tonight. Each resolution is for a separate easement request. That we would be okay to have Ms. Gordon signing as a representative for the board, the two resolutions, but we don't sign the deed information yet. We wait to get this additional information, and then we would follow through to make it official by signing the deed. But what this would allow is for us to go ahead and approve it, move forward with it, and then once we get the deed information and the drawings and the sketches, we can move forward. There's no concerns on their part that it's going to impede any of the work that we need to do at Springfield Elementary or anything like that. It's just a natural easement that sometimes gets requested in property. So again, the request tonight would be that you all allow us to read the resolutions, you vote on those. Those can become signed into the record, and then when we get the additional information, we'll move forward and notify you that the deeds have been notarized and signed. Any questions about that?
So SVEC is a power company, right? Cooperative power company. Why do they need communications?
I think in this regard, the way it's written is they might be providing service lines for the new broadband and some of those services that might be coming on board across the county. That's
they're
my
sort of
understanding.
Cobbling their efforts.
So what I think we need to do then is we'll read one resolution at a time, and then we can make a motion to approve that resolution, and we move to the second.
Okay. Okay, the first resolution is for tax map number 24-A-8. Resolution of the Page County School Board approving the grant of an easement over certain of the school board's real property and providing for the terms and conditions thereof. Whereas the Page County School Board is authorized under Virginia Code Section 22.1-129 to grant easements over its real property, and whereas the board is seized and possessed of a certain tract or parcel of real property, which is received by deed September 10th, 1937, from Amos R. Ruffner, Elsie Ruffner, Lester Ruffner, and Grover C. Miller, trustee, which deed is of record in the office of the clerk of the Circuit Court of Page County, Virginia. at Deed Book 106, page 141, which also known as Page County Tax Map Number 24-A-8, such parcel, the real property, and whereas the real property is described in a survey made by Fred T. Amos, County Surveyor, the metes and bounds of which are included in the foregoing September 10th, 1937 deed, and whereas Shenandoah Valley Electric Cooperative, a Virginia Utility Consumer Services Cooperative, has requested the board to grant an easement access the real property to enable the installation of a joint-use electrical and communications easement, and whereas the board wishes to grant such easement, now therefore be it resolved by the Page County School Board to wit: 1. Recitals. The recitals above are hereby incorporated into this resolution as an integral part thereof as if fully set out. 2. Authorization for grant of easement. The board authorizes the granting of a joint-use electrical and communications easement across the real property in the position shown and substantially in the form of the documents attached hereto and made part hereof, the easement documents. The chairperson of the board, the chair, is authorized to execute and deliver the easement documents and substantially the form presented, and providing for easement in the location described in the easement documents. Such easement documents shall be subject, however, to any amendments, deletions, revisions, or corrections as counsel to the board may advise and the chair may approve, such approval to be conclusively evidenced by the chair's signature on the easement documents. 3. Effective date. This resolution shall take effective immediately. Adopted by the Page County School Board at a duly called and held regular meeting on June 9, 2022, in which a quorum was present and acting throughout.
Do you have a motion? Questions?
I make a motion that we approve the easement request by SVEC for tax map number 24-A-8.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the easement request and a second.
Yes.
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 Okay, this one's for tax map number 24-A-14A. Resolution of the Page County School Board approving the grant of an easement over certain of the school board's real property and providing for the terms and conditions thereof. Whereas the Page County School Board, the board, is authorized under Virginia Code Section 22.1-129 to grant easements over its real property, and whereas the board is seized and possessed of a certain tract or parcel of real property which it received by deed dated October 4th, 1988 from Carol Douglas Offmeyer, which deed is of record in the office of the clerk of the Circuit Court of Page County, Virginia, at deed book page 427, page 453, which is also known as Page County Tax Map Number 24-A-14A, such parcel the real property, and whereas the real property is described in a survey by Bobby L. Owen, CLS, dated May 17, 1988, the metes and bounds of which are included in the foregoing October 4th, 1988 deed, and whereas Shenandoah Valley Electric Cooperative, a Virginia Utility Consumer Services Cooperative, has requested the board to grant an easement across the real property to enable the installation of communications easement, and whereas the board wishes to grant such easement, now therefore be it resolved that the Page County School Board to wit: 1. Recitals. The recitals above are hereby incorporated into this resolution as an integral part thereof as if fully set out. 2. Authorization for grant of easement. The board authorizes the granting of a communications easement across the real property in the position shown and substantially in the form of the documents attached hereto and made part hereof, the easement documents. The chairperson of the board, the chair, is authorized to execute and deliver the easement documents and substantially the form presented, providing for easement in the location described in the easement documents. Such easement documents shall be subject, however, to any amendments, deletions, revisions, or corrections as counsel to the board may advise and the chair may approve. Such approval will be conclusively evidenced by the chair's signature on the easement documents. 3. Effective date. This resolution shall take effect immediately. Adopted by the Page County School Board at a duly called and held regular meeting on June 9, 2022, at which a quorum was present and acting throughout.
Mr. Chairperson, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the easement agreement grant of easement as presented, and I believe it's under Virginia Code Section 22.1-129.
A motion
Second.
by Mr. Gubler and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to approve the easement request.
Mr. Paper.
Well, I'm going to vote yes, but just to clarify the date, what was shown on the screen versus that, this is correct.
This
Yes,
is June
yes,
9th.
I will
Yeah, that
update
one
that.
had
Yes.
something on
May
it.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The,
that's,
the documents have June
Yeah.
9th.
Okay.
thank you.
Yes.
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 Yes. Board member discussion?
I'm good.
Okay, you're done reading. You're good. Well, same as what Dr. Fox said, good luck to the teams competing tomorrow. And one of them is very near and dear to my heart. And congratulations to those kids that won at the state track meet. That's very cool too. I think Dr. Johnson might have somebody that may have won or did very well. And so, good luck and congratulations.
And I just want to do a shout out for the LHS girls soccer team. They've gone farther in the playoffs than ever before and are breaking new ground essentially right now in LHS. I think in LHS soccer history, boys and girls. I may be wrong. That's pretty cool.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second. A motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to adjourn.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.